I guess I got to ask you first, Maddie. What is this project to you, and where do you see it going?
Okay, thanks, Ollie, for the opportunity. I guess I like mail. I like sending things in the post, and it's sort of now that's my area of making stuff as an artist as well. So I have been a video artist and a performance artist, I guess, and I think I still am those things, but I'm most interested at the moment in sending things in the post, making experiments where I send articles of mail overseas and then ask the participants to send those same articles back and forth, and we can see how long we can continue the game for. And in researching the mail art movement, I came across Ray Johnson, who is a...
when did it happen, the mail art movement?
It came out of the Fluxus movement in the late 50s and early 60s.
Predominantly in the States?
And Europe as well. France, like one of the best early examples of an experimental mail art piece. And obviously, it has to be said, as old as the postal system is, which is hundreds and hundreds of years old now. Well, maybe not hundreds and hundreds, but definitely hundreds of years old.
Dark mail.
You know, people have been artists and people have been sending cool things and being creative with it. But Ben Valtier, one of the Fluxus members, sent a piece which is called The Postman's Choice. The Postman's Choice is is a postcard that is addressed and stamped on both sides, so that with two different addresses, so that when it goes through the postal system, the postman has to decide which of the two equally valid addresses it's going to go to.
I love that.
That's kind of dog.
I know. I wonder if any of them just get enraged, just fucking tear it in half.
Yeah, I mean it wouldn't work as well now. I think it would still work, maybe in a different way, but computers are reading the mail more than the human element. I mean, still ultimately a human does deliver the mail, but that's like 1962, I think, and that really that kind of sets the tone for. It's just a good example of the kinds of mail art pieces that people are writing. I think in the 70s, Ian Millis, the Australian artist, he made a piece it's a beautiful envelope, with typewriter address, but it says "Do not open this," and it's never to be opened. I think it's in the collection of the Art Gallery of New South Wales now, and it's never been opened. So I think there's just experimental possibilities within the postal system, engaging the postal workers themselves, having fun with the medium. That's what I like to do.
Do you think that idea of engaging the worker and that kind of disruption of everyday labour that happens, is that significant to you?
Well, I was a postie, and I did love when I was sorting through the mail and delivering it, if there was a postcard, because most of the mail that you get now is bills and advertising and boring stuff. So when you do get something, even if it's just a handwritten letter, and you can appreciate the handwriting on the envelope and the placement of the stamp and all those little elements that make up the object, it does brighten your day. But at the same time, the manager of the postal centre was always telling us, today the mail weighs so many kilograms. That means on average you should be doing your delivery run in 4 minutes and 57 minutes. So if you're not doing it in that time, you need to explain why. It's all becoming very corporatized, and they're probably gonna privatize Australia Post. Let's hope not. Let's hope we can stop that from happening. But I think workers do all the work in society, and that's most of us, and that's the class of people I'm interested in politically and also artistically, I guess.
Yeah. So I guess something that needs to be addressed in that is that 1962, you said, was when it came out. I guess we're not in 1962, so there is this...
You guess?
Well,
Sorry.
But in terms of mail art, from what Maddie's saying about just the amount of detritus and shit there is in the post, it's kind of mail is kind of almost obsolete now. It's kind of a subversive thing to be doing when there's a lot of more convenient and sort of attainable ways to reach people nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. In some ways, I think that makes it's different. Yeah, it's a different practice, because I think the great thing, the mail art movements and networks of the past really sought to democratize art, and I think that some of the proponents, people who made manifestos about it and wrote about it, they talked about how everyone could participate. If you had a mailbox, then you were part of it. You didn't need much money for a stamp and a piece of paper, you're there. You can bypass the gallery circuit and stuff. Although mail art did find its way into the galleries too. Yeah, the more democratic form now might be email or I don't know. It's not as pervasive. It's not as everyday. So it does change it a bit, but I think there also is a yearning for the material object and the physicality and just the connection the personal, the intimacy of the connection you have through the post that we need in such an alienating world. So in some ways it is different for sure, but in other ways it's maybe even more necessary to practice in this way, not just in the post obviously, but in these kinds of ways.
Yeah, I think that idea of the yearning for the kind of the materiality of it, I think that's really significant, because it plays into a few different things. I think there is like this nostalgia that has kind of erupted in the past 10 years for, the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s kind of, and 90s, I guess, the fashion, you can see it kind of in all places. And I think that the sort of quaintness and the nostalgia of receiving something in the mail that isn't, something you've bought online, a bill or junk mail, is super significant. It's always really exciting when you receive something in the post from another human being, But I guess something that I want to ask you about, because, obviously we're friends and we have contacts for one another, but, you're really involved in socialist politics and stuff like that. And I just want to, what you're talking about seems to have that kind of particular ideas at the center of it. I wonder if you've kind of thought through the political context.
Yeah, well, yes, I am a socialist, and I
maybe that doesn't feel significant here. I'm just.
Well, it does, but.
That was what you're asking.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question, because it is really important to me, the sort of fighting against the tyranny of capitalism and organising the working class so that we can together build a new world where, the workers are in control and we can put the brakes on runaway climate change and stop all the wars and end famine and poverty and all that kind of stuff. But that is, I also like just being an artist, and I like aesthetics and but yeah, I don't think every time I get into
those things aren't mutually exclusive though, of course.
Right, yeah, so I think under a socialist world we have more opportunity actually to study art, to find beauty in the world, to have the time to appreciate things, more leisure time, more times for sport and recreation and for working, we don't have to be working so hard in industries that don't benefit anybody. But look, I'm not making mail art because I think that is a way to organise the working class. I do that by
elsewhere,
going to protests, working in my union when I have a job, that talking to workmates. They're not mutually exclusive, but and I hope that there is a relationship, but I can't. I am an artist as well as a socialist, and can't make them always marry up exactly.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, definitely, I am interested in the everyday and the everyday people. So it does give me a thrill that postal workers, will see my work and wonder what the hell is going on, why they are delivering the same postcard to me over and over again. It just gets more and more dog-eared. And I enjoy writing messages on my mail art to the posties themselves, just to say hi, I appreciate you, you're just an intermediary for this object, but also I do want
part of the process now.
Yeah, I do want to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the last couple of weeks we've been listening to our peers present on their master's projects. I think that's also significant background for the three of us, that we're all master's students here together.
Yeah.
And I've had a couple of conversations with people about the through lines, the common ground between people at the school, or particularly master's students. That desire for an art practice that feels ethically aligned with our day-to-day lives feels really significant and really poignant and present at the moment, that, you know, wanting to find a way to consolidate how we live day to day and how we make art. And I think that then leads to ideas of and ways to foster connection between, you know, ourselves and others, and create spaces and where that's possible or encouraged. And I think that the project that we're working on together, but also, you know, your practice in general seems to very much sort of align with that as well. Yeah, which is nice.
That's what's really fascinating about being at art school. I mean, like, one thing that I've got in common that I'm curious to know from you, Maddie, is I'm a performer that came to art school, became a printmaker. You're a performance artist that came to art school, became a printmaker.
Yeah, well, self-professed performance artist. I didn't have any real training, like did a bit of theatre school or whatever, but I don't have, performing always came easy to me, and so I could make art and I could just be using those performance tools, but I don't have any of, I'm coming here with none of the skills that you guys have, like drawing, painting, you know, I've never worked with ceramics, I don't know how to do any like that, all that basic stuff that you would have learned in the first 3 years of a Bachelor of Fine Arts.
Conceptual artists, would that be closer than
performance
artists, do you think?
Well, because I can still have good ideas even if I can't like realise them, you know, or render them like nicely, you know. But that's why, I mean, mail art works for me. I am in the printmaking department. I am learning how to make things a bit more precisely and like getting images onto a surface. But if you have an idea and you can write it down and you send it in the post, you've made a piece of art that you don't need to go to art school for that. But yes, you're right as well, and you know what you're both saying about the fascinating thing about doing a master's where you get to focus on your practice and then go, how does that fit in with the world? Who are the relevant players in, you know, who are the previous artists and that have gone before that have sort of done similar things? It really does help you to understand what you're making and why you're making it. Performance, we are performing as well every day. You know.
Oh god, yeah. Some of the people you see about, oh man. And there's selfies everywhere.
Yes.
But, you know, that's a particular kind of performativity. But, you know, just existing and talking to people is also, you know, there's...
performance.
Yeah. Well, you know, we're performing roles.
Performing right now.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important not to limit that kind of idea of performativity to, you know, this kind of, to social media culture or whatever, and shit on it, because it's not it's not as simple as social media bad or whatever. But that's a slightly, you know, it's a different conversation than just, you know.
I mean, I've just been paranoid since this TikTok thing came about.
Do you TikTok?
No, I don't, but as soon as there's a trend on TikTok, people just swarm to the parks at Kirribilli. The latest TikTok trends.
You're kidding, that's so funny.
Whether it's the picnic clubs or the young women in mimosas.
Nice.
Or the slackliners trying to tightrope and just smash themselves.
Slackliners have been around for longer than TikTok though, and they will be around longer than TikTok.
These are slackliners without dreadlocks. That's a first.
True, actually,
You know
good
what I
point.
mean?
Whites with dreads, classic slackliner
Like,
shit.
people just trying it out for a day and like breaking their necks. And, it's ugly.
You live in Kirribilli, do you? What's it like there? Do you ever see the Prime Minister?
Oh god, no.
Does Scotty come to Sydney very often? I guess he does, eh?
I'm sure he's good.
Isn't he from Cronulla or something?
Yeah, he's from the Shire.
Yeah, right.
Hey,
Not this.
not the Shire.
I mean, I'm not. It's just Morrison that I despise.
Yeah,
Yeah,
likewise.
Yeah.
So before I move on, I got to ask you where you see this project going as time progresses. Is it limited to our show, or do you see this as a model for future growth?
Well, something that happened recently, I've been researching mail art networks, you know, Canadian ones, European ones, the Hungarian mail art movement, and which was really
some stroganoff coming.
No, it was really important because they were behind the Iron Curtain, and like a lot of the information that was coming through the post because it was less regulated than other forms of communication. So artist books and different literature, and we'd get mailed to people, and then that's how they also organised art shows through the post, because they couldn't advertise experimental art shows in Budapest and stuff so easily because it could get shut down by the authorities, because it could be seen as subversive or whatever, or so that's how repressive. So mail art networks were important there, and certainly Ray Johnson's New York Correspondence School, which the Sydney Correspondence School is kind of takes its name from. Sort of, they had a life of its own. It did go on for many years. Although in the New York Correspondence School's case, it was sort of Ray Johnson was like in control of it really, and some people say it wasn't really a democratic school. It was him. He would invite you to send stuff, or he'd send stuff to you, but it was never like ownership was never of the collective. I suppose I would like there to be this collective that ends up having a life of its own. At the moment, we're using the library's address, the National Art School Library's address. So all the mail for the Correspondence School is supposed to go to there. So once a show happens, I suppose mail could still go to there because the staff there are really nice, like Brooke and Janice. But once we're not students here anymore as well, next year, like maybe I'd like the correspondence school to continue. Maybe get a PO box or something, or use my home address, so there could be collaboration. And also just to say that there's a mail art network amongst my friendship group that a woman called Emma Davidson started up, and it's just called Mail Art Project, and there's like 30 people on the list already, on the first list, including people in Sweden, France and London.
Yeah, wow.
Nice.
And that could have a life of its own too. I think as long as people are sending posts to the people on the list, then it'll stay active. So even though it's like made for this show at Stairwell Gallery and it's driven by us collaborating, it has potential for further stuff. So please send your mail. Send your mail to care of the library at National Art School, Forbes Street, Darlinghurst. 2010.
You know who the ultimate mail artists are? The drug cartels. It is amazing the ways that they can get beer across borders and countries. Oh my god, I read this book about it.
That is so fucking left of field, Ollie.
It's a different kind of artist, but yeah, you do have to be pretty creative how you're going to get substances into packages.
Oh, and it's stuff you wouldn't even dream of. The most common ones, GPS trackers and boats. Stuff like melting them into plastics. So like just delivering a bunch of toilet seats, and they're like, the fuck's a bunch of toilet seats, and then they chemically separate the toilet seats and the drugs.
Wow, shit.
Wow.
Nuts.